Welcome to Behind the Books, the podcast that takes you into the minds of our Master of Liberal Arts faculty. I'm your host, Tristan Cabello, Associate Director of the MLA program, and in each episode, we'll explore the multifaceted world of the liberal arts through the eyes of our professors. Join us as we uncover the ideas, the inspirations, and the intellectual pursuits that drive their teaching and research. Whether you're a student, a scholar, or simply a lifelong learner, tune in and gain a deeper understanding of the liberal arts from those who live and teach them every day. And today I'm joined by Maya Nitis, who is a brand new professor in the Master of Liberal Arts. Thank you so much for joining us today, Maya.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Tristan.
So one of the questions that I have for you is, how would you introduce yourself? What's your academic background? What's your professional journey? What did you do before and while joining the Master of Liberal Arts?
Sure. So just a little note of a kind of origin, although I don't quite believe in origins, but I came to this country in 1991 as a refugee with my family when I was a child. So that kind of jump-started my academic and intellectual trajectory in every way. And we moved to Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, which was obviously a culture shock. And my alma mater is in Tennessee, not far from Nashville, in a little town called Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where I went to Middle Tennessee State University. And actually, it was an incredibly inspiring experience for me, where my professors were so supportive and such incredible interlocutors that I decided I wanted to keep doing this academic thing. And so I went to Memphis and I did my master's in philosophy. And it had a lot to do with questions of violence from the very beginning for me, because I kept feeling like in order to truly understand violence on all levels, one had to dig behind appearances and go a little bit deeper. So I was looking for answers to these kind of questions from early on. And so I did my master's, and then after I did my master's in philosophy at the University of Memphis, which was also an intense and fascinating experience for me, I took a little break from academia and I worked at a domestic violence shelter, which was work that I could definitely have envisioned doing long term. But I still had that academic and intellectual bug. So after a few years of doing various kinds of things in that and other fields, I decided to pursue a PhD.
Yeah.
And I did that. And in fact, I did two PhDs, which is a long story that
Oh,
I don't want to get into because I want to get to some of your other really fascinating questions.
yeah,
But I've really enjoyed doing academic work for most of my life. And I
yeah,
really enjoyed teaching as well.
yeah. Great. And so, can you tell us more about your research? What do you study? And how do this contribute to the liberal arts in general?
Yes, I've been working on critical theories, broadly construed, for a
Uh,
very, very long time. And I use that word mostly as an umbrella for feminist, queer, decolonial, and Black thought.
yeah,
Um, and critical theory with a big C as well. So I have worked on the Frankfurt School in at different moments, and I bring those different kinds of theories and discourses into dialogue with one another because I think that that dialogue is extremely fruitful for examining questions
yeah.
in the liberal arts as
Mm.
well as beyond. And I really work transdisciplinarily in a thorough way. So.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so as you know, I mean, we have several courses in critical theory in the MLA, and our students very much enjoy them. Can you talk a little bit more about, and that's a very broad question, of course, your teaching philosophy. What do you bring to the classroom to engage your students?
I'd love to, yeah. I mean, not only because, as professors and aspiring professors, we're always writing teaching statements, but because
Yeah,
this is something that I've been thinking about a lot
yeah,
since very early on, because teachers were so influential for me, as particularly as someone who came to this country without speaking English and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
without feeling like I had any chances to do much of anything
Sure,
at
sure.
all.
Mhm.
And it was my professors and my teachers who believed in me and who really insisted to me that I did have the opportunities that I didn't readily see around me. So yeah, so my teaching philosophy, I think at the core of it is the notion of agency, and not even the notion of agency, but I hope the practice of agency.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I am very much invested in hearing my students. Um, and rather than them hearing me, I almost want to prioritize me hearing them. And so part of this approach is also great flexibility as far as possible in incorporating the students' particular interests into the course so that their voices have as much input as possible into every class session, but also into every dialogue and into every course as a whole.
Yeah, and can you so our students when they are entering the program are feeling a little bit stressed out, right? Because this is a program at Johns Hopkins, and it's very rigorous, and it's graduate school, you know. So it could be a little bit impressive for a lot of students. What advice do you have for students who are pursuing this degree in the liberal arts?
Yes, you're absolutely right. There is so much stress around in general in academia in particular and in
Yeah.
prestigious programs.
Hmm.
And what I would say is I think it is habits are
Yeah.
something that influence our lives far more than we give them credit for, I think.
Yeah.
And once a student has decided to embark on this program, I'm sure there were a lot of considerations that went into that process. And once they actually commit to the program and begin the program, I think the very crucial thing after that is to take it step by step and to communicate with the professors. That was probably the greatest advice that I was given as an undergraduate that I took with me into graduate school to talk to my professors. They are people, they can make adjustments, they
Yeah,
can give you
of course.
particular individualized support.
Hmm.
And I always enjoy when my students reach out to me,
Yeah.
which they do on a regular basis.
Uh,
And that's a really important part, especially of an asynchronous program, that we
of
do
course.
develop that dialogue.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and as I often say to my students, whatever you are going through, I've been through it too, right? I mean, it's. I was in graduate school. I was stressed out too, just like you. I mean, I know you did not mention that, but were you a first generation college student yourself?
No.
No, and so, but you came to this country and you did not speak English, and so I was speaking English really very barely. Also, when I came to this country, and of course, it was my professors who actually helped me with advice and with trying to get me to the next steps. And so,
Mm,
whatever the students, of course, are going through, we have a story too, and most of the time we've been through that too. So of course it's very important to reach out to your professors. Um,
yes.
can
If I can just add to
Of
that
course, of
very,
course.
very briefly, when I was doing my master's in philosophy in Memphis, we had a very small cohort. And another piece of advice that I received that I think has been really important to me throughout my life is that your fellow students are
Hmm.
just as important as your professors. I have
Of
learned
course.
so much from them over the years and have formed such great, strong connections
Yeah,
and lasting not only friendships but also collaborations.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I mean, we had I think six people in my cohort when I
yeah,
was doing my master's, and three of them had nervous breakdowns during the
yeah.
program. It's very real, the stress.
Well, it's very real, and but I mean, something that I find also fascinating about our students is uh, most of the courses, of course, are asynchronous and online. There's very few courses that you take on site in the MLA program. Uh, But when it's time to graduate and they come to graduation, um, I I'm 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 realizing that they actually have forged very strong friendships, that they know
Mhm,
each other, that
mhm.
they've been talking with each other outside of class, and so the connections, are also very much happening in an online and asynchronous program too. Another
Absolutely.
question that I have for you, Maya, is but how do you see the skills and the knowledge that we get from a degree in the liberal arts being applied to the professional world, as they say, the real world
You know, I thought
outside of
about
academia, right?
yeah, this question has so many possible answers.
Yeah,
Um, and my great temptation is always to answer with Kafka's very short on parables, but I'll resist that temptation. No, it's just, it's funny that we do think about the real world and the liberal arts as having somewhat of a disconnect. I'm not sure that the disconnect exists in that form,
yeah, yeah,
but it's not the question, right? I mean, that question is everywhere, so it is
yeah.
important to answer.
Hmm, hmm.
I mean, what I would say in my own words is, wherever I go and whatever I do, to me, the liberal arts and the world of books and theories is a constant source of nourishment and wonder, which just sustains and deepens every endeavor that I undertake in a way that I think has been incredibly professionally rewarding. Something I didn't mention in the beginning is that I am now the assistant to the dean in the School of Architecture and Planning at Morgan State University, where I also teach in the PhD program in built environments. That's my full-time job now, my work in the dean's office in academic leadership. And it's something that I greatly enjoy.
Hmm.
And I find that I bring my background in critical theory to what I do every
Of
single
course, yeah.
day
Hmm.
in problem solving, in cultural competency trainings and discussions, in meeting facilitation, in just every aspect of what I do.
Yeah. Another question that I like to discuss with our professors is their inspirations, the work books, and pieces of literature that have like really influenced them. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Who are some of your academic and intellectual inspirations and why? And is there a book that was really life changing for you?
Hmm. I feel like it has been so many
Yeah.
because I came to this country, when I was 12, and it
Mm.
was this very strange age. And it was really books that became my friends.
Yeah.
Because I didn't speak English, so it was hard. And in
Uh-huh.
Nashville, there were very few people who spoke Russian, so
Yeah.
which was my first language. So,
Yeah.
it was hard to form those real life connections. But I'll just name a few names. The books that I started reading very quickly once I picked up English in a year or so after I moved here were
Yeah.
books by Audre Lorde.
Okay.
Poetry is not a luxury, which speaks
Mhm.
to our last question, and books by Alice Walker and
Um,
Toni Morrison and James Baldwin. I mean, these are authors that I have read and reread many, many times, that I feel like have accompanied me on
and
my,
and so, if I may ask,
yeah.
Maya, why? How did those authors particularly influence you? Why did their writings really resonated with you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was so many elements. It was that those authors had experienced discrimination
Yeah.
and they felt like outsiders to a society that they nevertheless had so much love for in different ways. And they offered this uncompromising social critique
Yeah.
of something that was in many ways their own at the same time, and to which they brought great care and gentleness and beauty together with uncompromising anger and critique. And that's very much how I felt, as a refugee who had come to a land of supposed safety and opportunity, only to experience a lot of hardship and discrimination, and
Mhm.
yet to want to persevere
Yeah.
nevertheless, you know?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. And to finish, to end this conversation, I'd like to talk also about what you do outside of academia, right? And so, what are some of your hobbies and interests outside of your professional life?
Um, there's no outside the text. No, I'm just joking. I actually I take issue with that Freudian line. So I've written poetry all my life, and
Oh yeah.
but is that outside of academia?
No, I
It
mean,
is. It
well, I
is.
mean, I mean, there's a lot of distinctions that I think are created for us, right? I mean, those are
Yeah,
social discourses. I mean, the
yeah,
difference between the liberal arts and professional life, and what's our professional life and our personal life. I mean, it's all merged together, right?
yes, it's true. But besides that, in the last couple of years, I have really delved into a new world for me that I never really quite did before, and that is the world of fitness.
Uh-huh.
To use that particular word, I was diagnosed with an immune disorder when I was in my 30s.
Uh-huh.
So I was struggling with health issues, which
Yeah.
is something that I hadn't been used to doing before in my life. So I wasn't quite prepared for it. And then a couple of years ago, I met really just an outstanding individual who is who's considered one of the best personal trainers and fitness instructors in Maryland. And
Uh-huh.
he's really illuminated this entire world and an approach
Yeah,
to
yeah,
life
yeah,
that is committed to physical fitness
yeah.
that really supports mental fitness as
Of
well, you
course. Yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So I've been doing a lot of combat and spending time in the gym in a new way for me, in a really kind of disciplined and
Yeah,
habitual way, which is something I've never done before
yeah,
to
yeah.
sustain my health.
And so this is going to resonate with a lot of our students because I teach the capstone in the MLA program, and so students can basically decide on whatever projects they want to write for their capstone. They don't have to write a 20-page article. I mean, they can do anything they want, and so some students have actually designed fitness books in comparison and in linking it with the works that they've done in the MLA program. And so this is really a very important thing that you just mentioned. So thank you so much. And I've had also several other interviews where our colleagues have mentioned that fitness is, of course, extremely important
Mm,
in their lives in order to also produce, good intellectual work.
hmm.
Maya, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure to listen to your story and to your vision for the liberal arts. And so, to our listeners, I also want to say that there will be another episode published probably in 2 weeks from now. So stay tuned. It will be published on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Maya.
Thank you, Tristan. I really enjoyed it.